Okay, so this is a video that I am purposefully recording in English so that I can elaborate some topics that are not well discussed. And this is a kind of issue that people tend to overlook nowadays, and it's about relationships and intimacy. So, what the heck's going on? It's simple. Nowadays, people they have, especially these younger generations, they have this tendency to seek out a certain kind of intimacy with someone else that they appear to never get totally fulfilled in these connections. And why do they keep seeking this kind of connection? And why are they never happy with it? There's the simple explanation and the long one. I'm gonna go with the simple one in this short video. And I hope it's short after I finish recording. But it's simply along these lines. There is a certain aspect or angle of the creation, and I'm talking about the whole creation, call it God if you will, that is only accessible because of someone else. It's not that a part of your identity is identifiable in someone else. That's not what it happens. What truly happens is there is a kind of access, there is a kind of information that is only accessible to you after you connect with someone else in a deep, intimate level, regardless of any other configurations, if you get what I mean. So you have this prerequisite, you have this kind of key, and to open this key, or better saying, to open the door or the lock, you have to have this kind of connection. So people, they experiment with whatever kinds of bodies and of persons that they encounter in life, and they realize that some combinations are the most effective in penetrating their hearts. But not only their hearts in the term of the loving term or the organ that beats in your chest. And I mean the heart, the pain, what hurts inside your soul. And there is a certain combination of form, of shape, and of interrelation, and of a certain dynamic that occurs between two people, and specifically two people, that opens this new horizon. So what happens next? You have this high, you have this kind of buzz that you have nowhere else, and you realize, wow, life is astoundingly, shockingly exciting, and it's amazing, and I want more of it. The point is, as soon as you have this kind of high, you also bring with yourself all your shames and all your guilts and all the things that you want to repress within yourself, and all of your shadowy aspects that you want no one else to ever be conscious about it. And because of the intimacy, someone else now is aware that you are not perfect. And this shocking revelation is destructive to your ego. So what happens is, most people, they tend to break up these relationships because their self aspect or their self conceptualization is never fulfilled. And why is that? Because their notion of themselves is totally corrupted by pride. And here I don't mean pride in a negative, or better saying, a positive way, because pride sometimes is healthy. But I mean the kind of arrogance that can destroy any kind of life. because it detaches you from objective reality so much that when you stop to breathe, you realize that the air that you intended to breathe is not the same air that you are breathing. And all of your constructed reality, it falls apart. That's the problem with arrogance. And this is a better term than pride. So bear with me in the semantics in this one, okay? So people, they construct a life for themselves around this false personality. And why is the term false personality? It's simple. Because they build their lives and their relationships with others on top of lies. A castle of lies. A bunch of lies. And all that is not truthful. And all that does not stand the test of truth. And what happens when you do that? Well, it destroys your notion and your certainties of life. And this kind of realization can be so destructive and so utmostly unbearable, so to speak, that when you realize the truth and you realize that you have been living a lie for so long, then what else is there? And that's precisely the point, that life in its second density or second level, from 1 to 7, precisely the orange ray. That is what happens when you get to that point and you learn what the heck does this logos have to teach within all of their second density creatures, such as this cat that is meowing in the background, because it's temporarily in an area that it cannot come near me. So, and why is that even relevant? Because second density or orange ray is all about building your sense of self, but here's the catch, within a group. So you don't have a single identity. You have group identity. And this is where it can be dangerous if you don't know how to use it. So there is this false knowledge that it may be powerful, but it's false. That a part of yourself is only accessible in someone else. This is a falsehood, but it's a powerful falsehood. Because you can delude yourself in thinking that when you access someone else, or in the midst of the relationship with someone else or the connection with someone else, you have this kind of high that you get. You have this kind of, wow, reality is seeing through a lens that, through a pair of lenses, whatever, that you are not used to wearing. And you are able to see things and to perceive reality in a different angle. And this angle is so, it has this kind of appeal that it convinces your ego and yourself that reality is worth living and worth experiencing. And what's the problem with this generation of nowadays? People don't want to live. They look to the system and the system doesn't appeal to them, and they say, F the system and whatever. I don't want to play this boring game. And so the entertainment industry, they try really hard to entertain you with whatever means they can achieve, but people are getting increasingly less entertained and less appealed or moved or deeply touched inside their spirits by these pieces of media that are thrown to us. So sometimes there is this kind of group of people that were having this conversation the other day, and they were asking, why don't people produce good music right now in the 20s? And in 20s, I mean 2020, 2020, the decade. Why does the last good epoch of good music is the 2000s? And so people have this nostalgic effect, and you can argue that it's a common nostalgic effect of every generation. Every generation is going to look to a couple of generations ago or a couple of decades ago and see that as the one true good epoch. And okay, whatever. But in a sense, when you stop to look at what people are producing, not only are they lacking any good new ideas, but they are refurnishing old ideas again and again. And this is a sign that the source of new ideas is running dry. So you have, for instance, Super Mario Brothers, the movie that was released recently, and it was a hit. Wow, people loved it, but it's not new. It's only refurbished stuff. And you have Lion King, the movie, and it, well, kind of was a flop, but whatever. It's a 90s movie or animation. So you have these reinterpretations of what's already produced. So why people can't produce anything new? And the answer is quite simple. Because they are so deep within the web of lies that those lies don't appeal to the self. And this is a kind of formula that you have to adhere to if you want to produce this information. You have to mix some kind of truth within it. If you only produce direct, diametrically opposite information, that is total BS, people won't buy it. Because what resonates with them is the part of truth or the complete truth, which is, if not inexistent, vanishingly rare nowadays, that is within the pieces of media. And this is why when you have, for instance, a song in the 2000s that people sing and they outpour their drama that they're living, and they have this desire to connect with someone else, but they also have this fear of being hurt by the connection to someone else. And you feel and you resonate with that because that hurt is real. And you can relate to that because you can feel the hurt. And nowadays, people are only regurgitating what's already produced. So it doesn't have anything new to that. It doesn't have any new appeal. So what's the point in all of this rambling? No precise point other than philosophy or whatever you want to call it, but it's more like a realization of the facts that are lived by society, and especially these younger generations. But and notwithstanding this, if you cannot in some way direct, not to say control, but direct the thinking process of these new generation, what are you gonna get? Massive, uncontrollable chaos. So if you are not able to produce truth and present this truth to people, they won't consume what you are producing. And this is especially concerning when it comes to the economical system. Not to mention any names, but the economic system, it's based upon the energy flow, not only of people's life force, but their thinking force, their attention span, and most importantly, their emotional force. So we all know at this point that people feed on emotions, and not only people, but that's a topic for another video. Emotions are food. And it may be shocking to hear at the first glance, but it's kind of an obvious statement. What would you prefer? What would you rather be within a person that is happy and is joyful and is pleasant to be with and is a person that radiates good vibes to the room, or would you rather be near someone that is 100% time negative, pessimistic, and it only egotistical and only thinks and talks and feels and not only irradiates but the contrary, it pushes, or better saying, it pulls within themselves all the time. So what would you rather be around? And the answer is, even if you could say, just for the sake of the laws, and not laws of jurisdiction, it's a internet slang, a very old internet slang, just for the laughs. So even if you would, just for the sake of being funny, we'll be near someone very negative, you wouldn't sustain that kind of patience for long enough. Because, and this is a very important point that maybe people won't get it, but I don't care. The important point is, people crave for truth. And some emotions, they point towards truth, and they are inclined towards truth, and they follow a trail of truth. But some other emotions, they point away from truth, and they pull you away from the path of truth. And some other emotions, they are tangential to the truth. This is where the media likes to stay, because it's more profitable to them, because you can always produce more. It's kind of similar to alcohol. Why would you produce a kind of beverage that is so intensely alcoholic when you can produce a beverage that is like 5% alcohol? And you can put some cheap grains in it, and you can keep feeding people, and they get this kind of buzz, and then it fades away, and they keep drinking. So they have to be addicted to even get a glance of what you can offer, or what the substance can offer. And this is the optimal kind of media, and this is what society is founded upon and is founded on. A kind of media producing algorithm that is based only upon tangential truths, and only upon exposing things, but only tangentially, so that you barely approach the truth, and then you keep following another route. And this kind of smell that you are close to the truth is what keeps people hooked. So this is why people are running out of stuff to produce, because the tangentials, or the tangents, are so scarce that if you get close to the truth, you are going to form a polygon, or whatever is the pronunciation of it. And because you have stuck so close and produced so many tangents, that now if you produce one more, it will kind of fill the gaps between what you have produced so far. So anyway, the most important thing that you could get from this video is the following. You are inclined to get a high, to get a kind of buzz, to get a kind of sensation in life only after you connect in an intimate level with someone else. Okay. And if you disconnect with this significant other, and you try to find someone else to fill the gap, and if you try to start fresh with someone else, you won't get it. You will resume what you have left unresolved. Okay, So what truly matters is not the shape, not the form, is what you think and what you process within your mind. And what actions do you do after you process this? But the point is to expose your deepest self, along with all the shames, all the guilt, all the insecurities, all the shadowy aspects of yourself. It requires not only courage, but far from courage. It requires something much greater than courage. And the thing is love. But not only this cheap love, not only even the love that is phonetically or etymologically associated with the meaning of the word love. And I mean agape. And I mean the kind of love, not only, and I don't mean even sacrificial love, but what I truly mean is unconditional love. And this kind of love that, regardless of someone else, regardless of what you do, I'm doing this for me. This kind of love that transforms you into a fountain, into a star that shines, and a self-fulfilling and self-sufficient star that keeps shining, whatever happens. It's not about someone else. If by chance this significant other partakes in this light irradiated or emanated by you, great. You have a wonderful time together. If not, great for you. Because you were able to muster this kind of feeling, and best of all, to actually feel it and actually outpour to the world this light that comes from your heart. And not only your beating heart, but all the perceptions and all of the stuff that happened with you that scarred your heart. That is your hurt. When you are able to, regardless, notwithstanding all of the scars that you carry in your soul, when you are able to outpour the feeling, when you are able to bravely or full-heartedly enough to love and to feel and to shine outwardly this feeling with a significant other, congratulations. You have unlocked a very specific part of life. And eventually you will realize too that it's not about a form. People tend to, nowadays in society, they tend to be really addicted to aesthetics, to shapes, to forms, and they tend, and I'm also within this group. I wouldn't make my mustache like this if I wasn't. So don't consider me in any way apart from the society that I am describing. I'm part of it. By all means, don't take what I'm saying like at face value. Check for yourself and don't think that I'm speaking this if I am above or superior, or I'm just pouring out the truth in a immaculate standpoint. Not at all. I'm as dirty as anyone else. But anyhow, and this is, it's meant to be said. It's meant to be at least stated, and at least recorded and shown to the world, and then whatever. You think what you want with this. But at least someone got the words together. And that's as far as merit as I could get. Just someone who could put the words together and say them out loud. That's it. It's not a big merit. It's not a big wow, not at all. But the point is, in reality, you only access this kind of information when you connect with someone else, and the form is not important. That's the point. But if the only way that you can get to feel love or get to feel the connection with the creation and the creator, if the only way that you can feel some kind of good feeling is throughout a kind of shape or form, then by all means, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and have your soccer team and family, or your basketball team and family and children and whatever. It's up to you. Or go ahead and have your zoo of pets so you can actually feel something from life. If you are not able to feel by yourself in solitude, then by all means, go use the tools that you have at your disposal. But you will eventually get to the same realizations that people get. And some people get to these realizations by themselves, alone, in solitude. Great to them. The point is, what is the intensity that you are able to play the game of feeling? Because the only way that you will progress in life, the only way, is when you feel something. And from that feeling, you do something. And people are trying really hard to get people in control by numbing their feelings. And if you numb people's feelings, you also reduce their productivity. And you also reduce their creative potential. And you also make them more of a liability instead of an asset. And you also make them more dependent. And you can think, well, at least if they are dependent, they are more controllable. So, okay. But that's not the point. Because their energy expenditure get increasingly unsustainable. So the emotions that they produce when they are in this numb and down state, the emotions don't feed as much as they used to. And the kind of life that they have is not fulfilling, not only for themselves, but for their peers and everyone else that feeds upon their energy, if you know what I mean. So it's bad. And it kind of dams in a way that when the dam breaks, and it will eventually break, as long as this kind of control keeps going on, this kind of system of control keeps going on, when the dam breaks, it will be messy and nasty. Well, and whatever. I'm not ruling the dam, so whoever is that, they solve the problem. So anyway, and what do you do then? Perfect love. And perfect love in kind of agape. It throws out every fear, and fear in terms of not only phobia, but also suppression, oppression, and every defense mechanism of the ego. It can be interpreted as this kind of fear, semantically speaking. When you have the true love, when you have access to the kind of love that is a fountain of everlasting life, then you unlock this property of feeling that fear doesn't have a sway or doesn't have any more hold within you. And it doesn't influence you hard enough to obscure your thinking process and your objectivity. I don't mean that you have to get away absolutely 100% from every kind of fear, but if fear's influence diminishes enough, just enough for you to be able to realize life more objectively, then you realize that the good stuff about life ain't precisely or only about money or resources and all of that, but the ultimate resource, the ultimate money, the ultimate energy source, infinite energy, infinite knowledge, infinite intelligence, God, love in its purest form, in its logoic form. And what does logos represent in this context? The intelligence, the architecture that life itself is built upon in this specific planet. So that's what logos represents. Eventually, People will come to terms with that. But as long as they don't, they will keep having meaningless relationships, liquid relationships. They will keep having this futility, and they will get to their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and they will keep being unhappy. They will keep being unfulfilled, unsatisfied with their lives, and they will keep blaming on someone else because they cannot accept the fact that their inability to learn the lessons is what got there in that mess in the first place. And that's basically it.